Good evening and welcome to another evening of Channel 83 News. I'm Jimmy Thomas and this is
Amanda Trott.
For our first segment, we have our audience send in articles or just topics that they'd like for us to discuss. This week we have an article sent in from Adri and it's about the climate change and how specifically the effects it had on the polar bears.
The article contains a graphic photo of a starved polar bear. Viewer discretion is advised.
Oh, yes, very tragic. Sad to see.
I totally agree with you, Jimmy. I'd say that climate change is one of the most controversial topics of our time. The reactions are basically divided into the believers and the skeptics. By now, we all know how climate change works, and even if you don't believe in it, you must agree that the world is changing. Since the population is constantly growing, this ultimately leads to an increase of carbon dioxide concentration rates in our atmosphere.
Yes, and with that comes consequences. Many species are affected by climate change, but I think one that's greatly affected would be the polar bear. These magnificent creatures are one of the major predators that live in the Arctic Circle, even though they mostly spend their time in the water. They rely on steadiness of the ice to hunt and kill their prey. To talk more about this, we have a scientist, Dr. Bourne, with us today. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. But yes, as you were saying, Jimmy, these animals have adapted perfectly to live in these conditions. Their habitat is extremely crucial for these animals. Not only does it provide them with shelter, but also ground for them to be able to catch their food. Since polar bears' diets mainly consist of seals, they need the steady ground that the ice provides. And since the ice glaciers are melting more and more each day, polar bears that have died due to starvation are being found, and it's very frightening.
This is a real problem. If we don't change our ways now, it could be the end of this beautiful animal.
I agree with you, Jimmy.
On the phone to us, we have Damien Carrington, the author of the article. Damien, welcome.
Thank you.
Damien, what more can you tell us?
After seeing that photo of the starved polar bear, it clearly shows that these creatures have had to endure as an outcome of indirect human destruction. I believe climate change is the cause as to why the ice glaciers are melting. The Earth is progressively getting hotter. This causes polar bears to lose much of their habitat, which as discussed before affects them greatly. The main problem being that it does limit their food source, which as we now know, results in the white bears dying of starvation.
What have polar bears done to try and adapt to the ice glaciers disappearing?
Well, basically they're packing up and moving. Studies have shown that they're traveling much further than the usual range in search for food, as you can see from the figure. The darker area shows a higher population density of the bears. Most of them live in these areas, as it provides their necessities, but since the ice is melting, the lighter shaded area shows where the bears are traveling to in search for food. As seen from the picture of the dead polar bear, they have been unsuccessful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, also where the bears are traveling to is closer to humans, which I don't have to explain how dangerous that could be.
The ice melting mainly restricts the polar bears from food, but it also degrades their health, and it causes a decline in reproduction. Other things like nutritional stress, and it just increases their difficulty to be able to survive.
Can we just see that video of the polar bear on the thin ice again?
First time ever recorded. Even the winter ice is thinner.
That really is just devastating to watch.
You're absolutely right, Amanda. The only thing we can do is to try and inform the public of this problem, to show them how climate change affects not only polar bears, but so many different species as well. It's important to know that if we don't change our ways, we're looking at a doomed fate.
A massive thank you to our guests. Please stay with us after the break. We show exclusive pictures from Brangelina's wedding.
That dress is just stunning.
Can you imagine the puppies? And now for sports.